Let's move on now to the Cincinnati Bengals and our free agency recap series. But before we get into that, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button and also ring that bell so you can get notified when Ryan and I release new content. We've been doing much more on this channel, and we've been growing at a rapid pace. We are now over 1,000 subscribers. We've reached our goal, and we want to see just kind of how far we can get up until the NFL draft. So if we can get to 2,000 by the NFL draft, that would be absolutely unreal. So hit that subscribe button, share this video with your Bengals friends and family. And Ryan, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
The Bengals have had like now very low key is not the correct way to say it, because they've had some major signings and also have lost some major players. So
yeah,
the Bengals team, I really like what they've done. I think that they have lost a little bit, but I think that they can address it in the draft, or maybe mainly in the draft, because I think the secondary class is very good. And so let's go into quickly and just on what they lost, because what I am seeing now here is, and I'll just start this out, they lost their free safety, Jesse Bates III, to the Falcons. He signed with them for a lovely contract. I'm sorry that we had to take them off your hands, Bengals fans. But I actually would probably honestly say maybe their bigger loss. Both were really good players, but when it comes to secondary, Von Bell. I think Von Bell going to the Panthers, I think arguably could be a bigger loss for them.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit magnified because they've lost Jesse Bates and Von Bell in the same offseason. So that back end of that defense is going to struggle, I think, in 2023. But yeah, I agree. Jesse Bates was a really good player. Von Bell, I think, had a really big impact on that defense. So they're both big losses.
Yeah.
To me, one of the biggest losses on the other side of the ball could be Joe Mixon. And I think you couple that with the loss of Samaje Perine, more of their third down back, and that running back room could be completely decimated come next season.
What is the latest? Because I did just see some of the reopening charges on him. Is it possible that he can miss this NFL season, or at least games in this NFL season?
Yeah, no, it's definitely possible he could miss at least sometime in this season, if not more. And so that could be a bad situation for the Cincinnati Bengals. Another big loss was Hayden Hurst. Joe Burrow really had a liking for the versatile tight end in Hayden Hurst. So he went to the Panthers. And then I think that is about it for losses. They haven't re-signed a few guys, but Eli Apple, Brandon Wilson, who didn't contribute that much, and then Trey Flowers also have not re-signed. And then just a few other rotational guys have not re-signed as well.
Yeah. So its secondary definitely is taking a hit, but I think that they have replaced several of them. Like one of the ones is Nick Scott, the free safety from the Rams. He played a lot of time with them. And so also then they drafted Dax Hill last year, I think, to come in and play. So looking forward to seeing how he has developed because he's essentially going to be taking Von Bell's spot, it looks like, at the strong safety. So still, I think it's something that they can address in the draft. We'll talk more about that in our later segment here, what we think that they'll do in the draft now. But what other additions, Ryan, have they added to this team?
So the big one is Orlando Brown, the left tackle from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was one of the best left tackles in the league last year, to put it frankly. And I really like that signing. Part of the reason why they struggled in Kansas City so much was that left side of the offensive line, and the offensive line as a whole was just so banged up from the season that they had. And it was really tough for them to keep Joe Burrow standing in that AFC Championship game. And so I think investing here, I also expect them to invest in the draft come the end of this month. So I really like that signing as well. You mentioned Nick Scott, and then Irv Smith Jr. to me is the other one that I really like. I think him and Joe Burrow could play really well together. So
yeah, I mean, that's what he's essentially just, there's like this tier of tight ends, like because you're obviously going to have Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and then I mean there's other tight ends up there that are like Dallas Goedert. Maybe you throw Kyle Pitts in there as potential, but like that top tier of guys who are like game changing guys. But then you have that like middle tier of guys that can be on rotational. They add value, but they're not game breaking. But in the right system, they can do well. I feel like Hayden Hurst and Irv Smith Jr. I think are kind of like that as well.
Yeah.
And so Also, too, this doesn't stop them from maybe adding tight ends in the draft position as
Yeah.
well. But the biggest thing, was absolutely getting Orlando Brown Jr. in that offensive line, helping keeping Joe Burrow upright for a long time, especially as they want him to be around for probably another decade. I bet his next contract is going to be probably a decade long. And so, because they want him there in Cincinnati. One other signing, we'll say on the defensive side, they re-signed Jermaine Pratt. Really like that signing. He's probably of all of their main defensive free agencies. I think they made the right decision here on keeping him if they had to keep one. And so he's definitely a rock when it comes to that defense and being just like the center of that linebacking core and being the captain of that defense.
No, yeah. I really like that re-signing. They have a few other ones just for some smaller rotational players. A few other guys that I think are of interest would be Terrell Basham, Sidney Jones, and then my favorite of the three would be Cody Ford, the right guard. Just another really solid offensive line depth piece there. So I like what they've done so far in free agency, but let's jump into what they should do in the draft. They do have the 28th overall pick, and in that range, it's kind of an awkward spot because you're really picking second rounders at that spot because there's not 32 true first round graded players. So you're kind of taking your pick of who you really like in your round 2 players. And for me, I like DeJuan Jones a lot here. You can plug him in on the right side day one. I think Deonte Banks might be a guy that falls into the mid to late 20s that could be of interest. And so I think there's a few different routes that they could go. I think they could continue to build this offensive line. They could bolster up this secondary. I don't think that there will really be a safety that is going to be available at 28. This is a pretty weak safety class. So that
both those things could go, especially if you want to address the offensive line as well. Another option, and this is one, it's a huge X factor, and like no one knows really where any of the skill position players are going to go outside of like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. And so, and that I think could also have a huge impact as well. I think if we start to see a run on, if like there's no tight ends that are taken up to this point, I think like Michael Mayer, especially with the team that has offensive line issues, guy can come in and he can run block as well, but he can also go out for passes. And I think that he would be a huge upgrade over what they have and a great addition to that offensive system that they already have set up with their receiving core with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as well, and Tyler Boyd. And so that could be a route that they go. Another route, and we talked about this actually with the Ravens, but another potential option as well is if Bijan is sitting there and depending on the Joe Mixon situation. But they did lose Samaje Perine, but also then too Joe Mixon. I think he's I need to double check his contract situation, but he's getting up there in age, and this can be definitely a nice transition. You can have a running back tandem this year, but then hand it over to Bijan, and you get that extra year of contract status because it's in the first round.
No, I like that. I was going to bring that up here as well. I think if they want Bijan, they might have to trade up 6, 8, 10 picks to really be in that conversation because I think he's going to go late teens, early 20s. And and so they might have to trade up a little bit to grab him, but I really think that would be a good fit. You talk about teams that have the luxury to do that. Cincinnati's definitely one of them. I also think with the way that they like the offense that they run and the way that they play, they are definitely a very balanced offense. And I think Bijan would thrive in that system where you could really have him on the field at all times and you have no idea what play is coming at the snap. So I really like that fit for Bijan.
Yeah, and if everything that has so there was a point in that middle of the season before the injury started to happen, but that interior offensive line I thought was doing well. Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, and then you do still have La'el Collins. He got hurt, but he was doing a good job on the right tackle spot, in my opinion. But now you have throwing Orlando Brown there, and you still have Jonah Williams also. So I mean, there could be a competition there, obviously competition for left tackle. Orlando Brown's the starting left tackle, but it's like so. There's
for right tackle.
Competition for right tackle. Yeah. So huge improvement on the offensive line, and if they can become more consistent with protecting Joe Burrow, but then also providing a good run game, Yeah, it could be very scary if they get Bijan back there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that would terrify every team in the AFC North. So,
yeah.
Let's go ahead and wrap up Cincinnati Bengals offseason recap there. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and smash that bell so you get notified when time I create new content. We are trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. And if we can't do that, if we can get to 2,000, 2,500 by the start of the season, that is a good consolation prize. So if you can help us reach that goal, that would be very much appreciated. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.